Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, July 8th. July 8th already. And we're getting into commission math. So commission math is always a lot of fun because everybody likes to calculate their paycheck, right? It's always kind of funny to me that everyone is a lot of people struggle with math until it comes to their paycheck. And then all of a sudden they're CPAs, right? And they can get it down to the penny. So that's what we're going to learn today. We got to learn how to calculate our commissions. All right. So let's take a look at this. All right. So before we get into this, let's talk about how commissions are shared and generated. Okay. Now, I know with the big realtor settlement, the whole commission thing is a little bit up in the air, but right now, preparing for your test, we're still calculating commissions the same way. So until we hear differently from PSI and Pearson View, until everything shakes out, we're going to keep still doing commissions the same way. Okay, is everybody on board with that? Just want to address that because I know everyone's concerned about, and all of that's still getting ironed out, to be honest with you. So we're not going to know anything about that really till September. So this is how we're going to do commissions moving forward. Okay. All right. Now we're going to start with single agency. How do we do commissions with single agency? And what does single agency mean, by the way? This is a great vocabulary word. So it's important that you guys know what single agency is. What is single agency? What is single? When I asked if that was a test question, what would you say single agency is? Annette says only one side. That's correct. In a single agency, you're only representing one side of the real estate transaction. So in the real estate transaction, you know, there's two sides, right? There's the buyers and there's the sellers. If you're only representing one side of that deal, same transaction, you're only representing one side, that's referred to as single agency. Single agency. So we're going to learn how to calculate commission in a single agency situation. Okay. So let's take a look and find out where do commissions come from historically? Where have they always come from? All right. So we have a listing salesperson and a seller, and the seller is working with this salesperson. So that's why we refer to her as a listing salesperson. So remember, if you're working with a seller, you're listing the house and you're referred to as the listing salesperson. Now, is this salesperson just working by themselves? Do you get a real estate license and just go out on your own doing your real estate deals? No, you have to be under the supervision of a broker, So we're going to say that she works at Ready Realty and she's working under her broker, right? Here in Alabama, we call them qualifying brokers, but that's an Alabama specific term. In your state, you may be called a managing broker, a supervising broker. Trying to think of some other terms I've heard, but the whole point is there's one broker in the company that's responsible for everybody, right? That one broker, and everybody works under that broker. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about agency for a second too. This is a good time to throw in a little agency here. Let me ask you a question. Who is this salesperson's client? Who is their real client? Who's the salesperson's client? Really? If you really think about it, who is that salesperson's client? Who is that salesperson really working for? The broker. Remember, the salesperson's working under their broker, right? The salesperson is working under the broker. So the salesperson's client really is the broker, right? She's an agent of the broker. Okay. So even though in the real world, every day she's working directly with the seller, technically, if you think about it, this listing agreement is between the broker and the seller. The broker and the seller, right? So it's the broker and the seller that really have this listing agreement. That listing salesperson is just representing the broker because that broker can't be in more than one place at one time. Okay. So let's say we've signed this listing agreement. Now, what would happen if this salesperson one day decided to leave, to exit stage left? She just said, you know what? I'm tired of real estate. I'm tired of going out here and showing these houses all the time. I'm going to go get a regular job. What would happen to the listing if the salesperson were to leave in the middle of the listing? What would happen to it? Nothing, right? Nothing would happen to it at all. Nothing would happen to it because remember, technically, this listing agreement is between the broker and the salesperson. The broker would take it over and the broker would probably assign it to another salesperson. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Just want to throw in a little agency with you guys, make you see how agency works. Remember, agency means relationship and representation. Agent relationships and representation. Okay. So let's in this listing agreement, this is really important because this is the agreement that is going to make sure that the broker and the salesperson get paid for all the work they're going to do. Okay. So in the listing agreement, let's say that they have negotiated a 6% commission. Okay. And all commissions are negotiable. And I think that's where the realtors out there in Colorado kind of forgot that. And that's why, honestly, I think they've gotten themselves into this trouble. Commissions are always negotiable. They always have been negotiable. Whether or not somebody tells you that is another story, but they've always been negotiable. So let's say that they negotiate a 6% listing commission. So that means when this house sells, the contract price is 10%. Okay. So when this house sells, 6% of that contract price is going to go to Ready Realty. Okay. The seller's going to keep 94% as profit. And then out of that 94%, she may have some other expenses that she has to pay. Okay, so we've got this house listed. Yay! How are we going to let everybody else know that we've got a new listing? What should we do? What is the most efficient way to let everybody know, hey, look, we got a new listing? The MLS, yes, this is where the multiple listing service comes in. And this is why the multiple listing service is so important to our industry because it's the one database where everybody puts their listings. So it's very consistent. So we're going to put it on the MLS. And we're basically telling all the other members of the organization in that local MLS, hey, look, we've got a listing. And if you bring us a ready, willing, and able buyer, we will happily share part of our commission. Okay, and this is traditionally how commissions have been done, how they've been handled. So when you put the listing on the MLS, the listing salesperson has to tell everybody else in the MLS how they're going to split commission. And typically, this commission is split 50-50. Okay. So when we go to the closing, the 6% is going to be split evenly between the listing brokerage and the brokerage representing the seller. All right. Now, how many of you guys like to go on those national websites like Zillow, realtor.com? Any of you guys like to go on those websites and look around, see what's on the market? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Because you're getting into real estate, right? Have you ever noticed when you go between realtor.com and Zillow and all the other sites, have you ever noticed that it's always the same houses usually? You ever notice the same? If a house is on Zillow, it's going to be on another one. Have you noticed that? Do you know why? Do you know why that's why? because the MLS feeds that to those national sites. This is a great feature of the MLS. When we, as a listing salesperson, put a listing on our local MLS, it automatically goes out, it feeds out to those national sites. Zillow, realtor.com, all those other sites. That's where they get those listings from the MLS. So again, the MLS is massively important. It's huge. Priscilla says, is it real time? It is less than 24 hours, Priscilla. It'll be posted. So once it hits the MLS, it's also going to hit Zillow and realtor.com. That's why when you get your license and you're taking pictures of your properties to put up the listings, remember, you're not just competing with houses in your local area. Because of Zillow and realtor.com, that your house is competing with houses all over the country. So you want to make sure you take the best pictures you can. All right. You want to show that house in the best possible light. All right. So we got the house out there on the market. We've listed the house. It's on the market now. And we're hoping to attract a buyer, aren't we? That's what we want, don't we? We want a ready, willing, and able buyer to come along and look at this house. Well, fortunately for us, Betty Buyer is going to come along. This is Betty Buyer right here. And Betty Buyer also has representation. She's working with a salesperson as well. And she has signed a buyer's agency agreement. Okay. And in this buyer's agency agreement, this salesperson, they have negotiated a commission themselves. Ha, yes. So let's say that they've agreed to pay 3%. Now, what this salesperson is going to tell Betty Buyer is this right here. Listen, Betty Buyer, you've agreed, we've negotiated, and you've agreed to pay me 3% of the contract price as my buyer's commission. Here's what I'm going to do. I know you don't really want to pay me 3%. I get that. You're paying a lot of money to buy a house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first try to get that 3% from the listing broker in the form of a shared commission. That's a shared commission. Okay. I'm going to first try to get it from them. And usually 99% of the time, that's what happens. Okay. But there's also verbiage in this contract that says, but if I can't get the 3% from the listing side, then you, Miss Buyer, are on the hook for it. You're going to have to pay me the 3%. And again, that's something that you will learn about more in post license, but it's also something we got to see what's going to shake down with all of the stuff with the realtors, right? So I just want to tell you guys how it used to work or is working now. So when things change, we'll know more about it. Okay. Resney says, do real estate agents have access to more listings as compared to buyers? They do not, Resney. There's no secret there. I don't know how this myth got started, but there's no secret database of listings. Resney, but there are situations where, and I know really good productive real estate agents, they are involved with a lot of people and they have built up a lot of clientele. So they may know when people are getting ready to list sooner than other people, but there's no big secret database that we have. Okay. I know here in my neighborhood, we have a Facebook group just for the neighborhood. And when someone's getting ready to list their house, they'll post it on the Facebook group. Not a real estate agent, but homeowners. So homeowners will say, hey, we're getting ready to sell our house. Do you know anyone who would be interested, just to see what the interest is out there? Okay. Now I'm sure there are some real estate agents who keep stuff in their to themselves, because that, I'm not going to say there aren't, But that's the whole part of being a really good real estate agent is building up that clientele where people, when they're getting ready to list a house, they contact you in advance. So you already know. Okay. So, but sometimes the owners themselves, especially nowadays, the owners themselves want to market it and put out feelers before they actually list it. Because there's a house up the street from me where one weekend I was walking the dogs and there was a moving van and there had never been a for sale sign in the house. They had just said, "Hey, we're looking at selling our house." And another family in the neighborhood said, "Oh, we've always liked that house. We need a bigger house." So that happens a lot. So yeah, but there is no secret database that we all have access to at all. So, okay. All right. Now, one other thing I want to point out to you guys is this salesperson works for City Realty. Okay. And City Realty is under a broker as well. And this is an important term. I want you guys to look right. I want you guys to notice right here. Notice that the salesperson working with the buyer is referred to as the selling salesperson, selling broker. This is an actual real estate term that we use. When you're working with the buyer, you are the selling side. When you're working with the seller, you are the listing side. That sounds kind of confusing, right? Well, think about it this way. When you work with the seller, what you're really doing is you're listing the property. And here's the deal. 9 times out of 10, when you list a house, you're not going to sell it either. You're not going to sell it. You're just going to list it. Someone else is going to show that house to a qualified buyer and actually get it sold for you. That's why they're called the selling side. The side working with the buyers, they're already lined up with buyers. So they're already actively looking for houses. So as soon as that house hits the market that you've listed, that buyer's agent, who would be called the selling salesperson, is the one who's got somebody who's ready to go look at it, who's pre-approved and is ready to make a move and make an offer. So make sure you make a note of that, okay? When you're working with the sellers, it's the listing side. When you're working with the buyers, it's the selling side. Selling, I-N-G. Yes. Resny, buyer says buyer's agent equals selling salesperson. Yes. So you see selling side, selling broker, selling salesperson, selling company. That's the side working with the buyers. Okay. Everybody got that? Make a note of it. This is a real estate term that we use it in the real world. Okay, good deal. All right, so let's say Betty buyer liked what she saw, came and saw the house, really liked it, made an offer. They did a counter offer. We did some negotiations. We finally had a meeting of the minds, our mutual agreement. We got on the same page. And we signed a sales contract. Yay! So now let's do the commission math. So let's say the contract price was $200,000. Okay. And it was listed at 6% commission. What is the total commission? So what is 6% of 200,000? What is 6% of 200,000? 12,000, right? Okay. That's how much commission that seller is going to pay. That's how much is going to be taken out of her proceeds. 12,000. All right. So we do that first. First, calculate your total commission. Now, remember, this listing broker has promised to split commissions, right? With the buyer side. He's promised to split them 50-50. So what do we have to do to this 12,000? What's going to happen to 12,000 at this point? He's promised to split it 50-50. We got to divide it by 2, don't we? So let's divide it by 2. They're going to be split evenly between the brokerages. So 12,000 divided by 2 is 6,000. So $6,000 is going to each brokerage. So at the closing table, there's going to be a $6,000 check going to Ready Realty, made out to Ready Realty, and a $6,000 check made out to City Realty. Okay, now here's the thing, you guys. When you go to your first closing, and they hand you a $6,000 check, it's not going to have your name on it, is it? Nope. That 6,000 is going to your brokerage. It's going to be made, that check will be made out to the brokerage. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take that check back to the office. You're going to make a photocopy of it for your records and for your broker's records. And then you and your broker are going to split the $6,000 check. So let's see how much you're going to get. So this listing salesperson, when she went to work at Ready Realty, she and the broker had a conversation about the split. How much money does she get to keep and how much money is going to go to the brokerage? So let's say that they agreed on an 80-20 split. 80-20 split. She's going to get 80%. And the broker is going to keep 20%. Okay. So if $6,000 came, if she brought in $6,000 in total commission and she's getting 80% of that, how much is she going to get? $4,800, right? $4,800. So the broker will turn around and cut a brand new check made out to the listing salesperson for $4,800. It's not a bad check, is it? That sounds good to me. I like it. I'll take a $4,800 check. I mean, if someone's handing them out. Okay. So we take that 6,000 divided by her split, her portion, 80%, and she gets 4,800. All right. What about over here at City Realty? What's their split? They're working on a 70-30 split. So how much is this selling salesperson going to get over here? The selling salesperson is going to receive how much? A little bit different, right? 4,200. 4,200. Very good. Because they may be providing more leads or more training. All right. Priscilla says, I've seen that 70-30 split on the selling side. Is that the rate? No, no. Priscilla, every company has a different split. And a lot of companies will have multiple splits, multiple levels of splits. So when you guys pass your state licensing exam and you're interviewing brokers, talk to them about money. Don't be shy talking to them about money and splits. Ask them what they're going to provide to you. Because the more you get in your split, the less services they're going to provide to you. And as a new licensee, you guys need training, training, training. That's what you should be worried about. How much training are you going to provide me? I need to have some hand holding because I'm brand new and I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to make a mistake. All right. Any questions about this process? So Ginger says, for each transaction, will the split be in writing? So Ginger, your split is documented in your independent contractor agreement. So Ginger, when you go to work under your broker, you two will sign an independent contractor agreement, and that's where your split is documented. So it's in writing in the independent contractor agreement. And most people know what their split is. They know. But again, that's what I'm telling you guys. When you get your license and you're interviewing brokers, make sure you talk to them about the split and all the details and how does that work. So Ginger says, so it's a fix for each transaction. Yes, it is, Ginger, but brokerages have different levels. There's different levels of splits. So every brokerage does it differently. So again, that's why I'm telling you guys, when you interview with brokers, make sure they outline in writing their splits and the different levels and how that works. Okay? So that you know every time what your split is. Some brokers have very simple splits, 70-30, that's it. It's always the same. Other brokers have different levels, like 70-30 for your first 20 transactions, and then it goes up to 80-20. Some people have 70-30 plus a fee. So there isn't like a standard, okay? So just make sure you ask a lot of questions and you get it in writing when you're talking to a broker. And if you're talking to a broker and they don't want to put anything in writing, go find another broker. All right, let's do some math. So I know we took up a lot of time going over that, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys are familiar with this process. So you've got some clarity when it comes to this process, okay? So when you see a question, you can think your way through it. Were there any other questions about this process? We are going to do some math, I promise you, but I wanted to walk you guys through that first, so you guys see what's going on, especially with the talk with the commissions nowadays. All right. Well, thank you, Annette. I'm glad. All right.
So, Amanda, I'm sorry to interrupt you again.
Go ahead.
So, what is this talk you're talking about? I don't know. It might take too much time to discuss, or just high level. Wondering what is it?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear the first part of that. Free said, what is the what?
There is something going on with this commission or whatever, right?
Oh, there was a lawsuit filed in Colorado on behalf of buyers. I believe it was Colorado. And they sued the realtor, saying that the realtors were taking advantage of them.
I see.
Just Google realtor lawsuit and it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, the NAR lawsuit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what everyone's talking about right now. So, so it's pretty interesting.
Is that going to affect everybody? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it is, because they're saying it was an antitrust situation where the buyers were told that they couldn't negotiate commissions.
I see.
So yeah, we literally, when it first happened, we literally spent one whole class talking about it. So read up on it, and it's still, the lawyers are still chewing on it, because we get weekly updates on it at my association. It's still being hammered out. Because here's the deal. Buyers, the sellers are always paying the commission. They've always paid commission. It's always been negotiable. And buyers are not going to want to pay their own commissions. So it's kind of like, it's a lawsuit I think is really going to shoot buyers in the feet, honestly. But we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's get to the math bit. Here we go. Number one, a sales associate and a broker split commissions on a 70-30 basis, respectively. We're going to look at that word in a second. How much commission will the sales associate receive if her brokerage only represents the buyers in the sale of a home for $224,000 with a listing commission rate of 5%, assuming the brokerages agreed to split the commissions evenly? So these are the steps we're going to do. We're first going to calculate the total commission. Then we need to divide the total commission by 2. And then we need to calculate the sales associate split. But before we do that, though, we got to tackle this word respectively. What does that mean? Okay. So respectively means there are two pairs in a sentence. We got two pairs here. We have sales associate and a broker is a pair. And 70-30 is a pair. And the question is, how do we match these two up? Respectively means basically follow the order. Follow the order. So sales associate came first in the sentence. So 70 came first in the sentence. So we're going to pair up the sales associate with the 70%. That's what respectively means. The broker, the word broker came second in the sentence. The number 30 came second in the pair. So we're going to give the broker and the 30 are going to be paired up together. So he'll get the 30%. Okay. That's what the term respectively means in the English language when you see it in a sentence. So there's two pairs, and the first word listed in the first pair is going to go with the first word listed in the second pair. And then the second word is going to go with the second word. Has everybody got that? Give me a thumbs up. I just like to touch on that too, because I know not everyone, English is not your first language. And for some people who English is their first language, they're just not aware of that. So again, I'm just wanting to touch on that, make sure we're all on the same page. Okay. All right. So now let's solve our problem. So we're going to do the total commission divided by 2, and then figure out what the sales associate's going to get. So total commission divided by 2, and then figure out what the sales associate's going to get. So can you guys do that for me and type your answer in the chat?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
If you buy a house from the builder, so builder is the one who is paying commission to your realtor?
Yes. Usually the builder has their own company in it. And so the builder is the listing side, right? And if you as a buyer, if you come with your own agent from another company, the builder will pay the buyer's commission. But let's say, Nate, that you are the listing salesperson, you're working for the broker as the builder representative. Brokers will not pay you double commission. They're only going to pay you your half. So if you have a buyer that walks in off the street and you're working with them as a transaction broker, as a non-agent, you're helping out that person. You remember, you're still representing the builder. That builder is not going to pay you double commission. You're just going to get one side. Okay. You're welcome. Good question. All right. So how much, what is our total commission? So what's 5% of 224,000? Our total commission is 11,200. Okay. And then we're going to divide it in 2 because again, the sales associate, her brokerage only represents the buyers. So that's letting us know right there, this is single agency, right? So we got to divide it by 2 because the brokerages agree to split the commission evenly. So 11,200 divided by 2 is 5,600. And then our salesperson, how much are they getting? Are they getting the 70 or are they getting the 30? Which one are they getting? The 70 or the 30? They're getting the 70. The salesperson gets the 70. Remember, it's the first word in the sentence. It goes with the first word back here. All right, so 70% of 5,600 is 3920. 3920. Very good. How did you guys do? Oh, excuse me. How did y'all do? You what? You did good? Michelle, you got it? Pretty good, Priscilla? Maria, you did good? Nathan's giving me an okay. All right.
I have another question. Will we talk, maybe it's in the next slides, if selling salesperson and listing salesperson working in one broker, under the one broker, how does this goes?
It would still be split.
So it's gonna be, but so
Well, we won't have a question like that. That's a good question, Nate, but there won't be a math question like that because in the real world, we would have to look at it. Is it designated or dual agency?
no, it's gonna be, let's say I work under realtor, whatever,
Mhm.
and some other, because let's be honest, brokers, they have a lot of realtors, like
Yeah.
big companies, they have a lot of realtors. We might don't even know each other,
Yeah.
right? And we work under one broker
Mhm.
and we don't know each other, so it's not like a dual agency, right?
Right.
Because
Well,
we're two different,
it's still considered dual agency.
because of the broker.
Because um the broker has both sides of the deal. Remember, the broker technically has the listing and the broker technically has the buyer agency. So it's still dual agency. But when you go to the since they're both under the broker, Innate, when they go to the closing table, that check, that 12,000, that $11,200
Mhm.
check, that won't get split into two. That brokerage will just be given one check. And then it's up to the broker to divide it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So it's treated mathematically the same as if it was the same agent, the same salesperson had both sides of the deal.
Okay.
Okay.
It's interesting how it's gonna be in real world.
Yeah. Well, we got to wait and see how it's going to shake out with this settlement and everything. So
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. All right. Let's do another question. Okay. Number 2, a sales associate and a broker split commissions on a 75-25 basis respectively. So again, figure out how much the salesperson gets from the split and how much the broker gets. How much commission will the sales associate receive if his brokerage only represents the buyers in the sale of a home for $500,000 with a listing commission rate of 5%, assuming the brokerages agreed to split the commission evenly? What are we looking at? What are we looking at? All right. So again, we want to calculate the total commission. We want to divide the total commission by 2 because we have 2 different companies in this transaction. One company is representing the buyer, one company is representing the seller. So we got to divide it by 2. And then for that sales associate that we're talking about representing the buyers, how much is that sales associate going to receive? All right. All right, you guys are predicting 93.75. Let's see if you're right. All right, so total commission is 500,000 times 5% is 25,000. And then we need to divide that by 2 because again, we're only representing one side of the deal. So we got to divide it by 2. It's 12,500 paid to each brokerage. And then our salesperson is going to keep 75%. Because see, it says sales associate and a broker, 75, 25 respectively. So remember, salesperson, it's got that first number because the way we got to follow the respectively. Okay. So 75% of 12,500 is 93.75. $9,375. That's a nice check. Woo! Good job, guys. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay. Priscilla says, will the sales associate always get the highest percentage? No, not necessarily, Priscilla. That's why we got to be careful when we read the sentence. Okay, make sure you're reading it carefully, okay? All right, read the sentence carefully. That's why we got to make sure we know how to use respectively. Okay. Number 3. Will is a sales associate at Ready Realty Group and enjoys an 80-20 split with his broker, receiving 20% of the commission. Recently, Will closed on a $429,000 deal where he only represented the buyer. If the property was listed at 5% and the brokerages agreed to split the commission evenly, what was Will's commission? All right, so how much is Will going to take home? All righty. Let's see what we got. Okay, so the house sold for $429,000 at 5% commission. So that's going to be $21,450. That's our total commission. And then the brokerages agreed to split commission evenly. So 21,450 divided by 2 is 10,725 to each company. And then how much is Will getting? I've worded this one a little bit differently, didn't I? It says Will is a sales associate at Ready Realty Group and enjoys an 80-20 split with his broker receiving 20%. So if his broker's getting the 20%, then we have to make that connection there that Will's getting 80%, right? 80%. So 80% of $10,725 is $85.80. $85.80. Oh, excuse me. Very good. How did you guys do on that one? Nice. That's a nice check, isn't it? Priscilla, I got you. Gotta be careful. We gotta read them carefully. All right, you guys. Well, I'll tell you what, let's stop right here. It's about that time. So, and the tricky part with real estate math is that the math itself is easy. It's just multiply, divide, multiply, multiply, divide, multiply. It's the math is wrapped up in a word problem, which sometimes can make it tricky. So we got to just learn to slow down and read it very carefully. So when we come back, we're going to take a break for an hour. When we return, I've got some more questions to work with you guys on. Okay, we're just going to keep doing some commission problems. Sound good? All right, everybody. I'll see you guys in an hour, okay? Thank you. I'm going to go check my email. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in an hour. Bye.